You're listening to
They're going to call it a hard foul. They're going to call it a hard foul.
We talk so much about what LeBron is doing in his image. What about Uncle Al Horford guarding LeBron, guarding Luka in his 18th season?
Man, Al's the best teammate I ever had. You know, the ultimate professional, the best teammate, the guy that showed me the way when I was 19 when I came into the league. You know, so much of what I've been able to accomplish is because I've been around him. So we wouldn't be who we are without Al.
Celtics kick the Lakers' ass, unsurprisingly, last night, Mike, and we are Hard Foul, brought to you by the
Fan First Sports Network, bitch. Jimmy, I want to kick us off talking about Al Horford. Came out last night defensively and put on a clinic. This guy put out on an island on switches to cover LeBron James in ISO situations, and Luka in ISO situations over and over again. He just performed terrifically, took advantage on the offensive end of the Lakers' lack of height, took hits to the body where they weren't calling balls and just finishing at the rim, passing the ball well, running the fast break. You name it, Al did it, dunking on the fast break like a 19-year-old. And that's following up a game that I think we didn't talk enough about, his impact covering Jokic on Sunday against Denver. This guy has shown up traditionally over the years in big games and big moments. He has struggled this season, I think, with his shot, and he's just showing us once again how important he's going to be in the postseason. Just an incredible effort. I thought last night and earlier this week against Denver, he's just really showing his value once again.
Yeah, so let me get this straight. Your Lakers, the best team ever assembled, according to you, championship or bust Lakers, get their ass kicked. And today you want to start off the pod talking about Al Horford and not how mismatched the Lakers were. Just so I understand.
That's not even close to what I've been saying. On our last pod, I said I want to play the Lakers because the Celtics would win in 5. And that the country needs a Boston Celtics Lakers NBA Finals, which I think is correct. If you saw the Garden last night, this is what people want to watch. They don't want to watch Denver versus Cleveland. Not Denver, OKC versus Cleveland. They want the key, the franchises with the history. I think
it'd be a shitty series.
Fans. It would be a shitty series for everybody else except Boston fans.
Yeah.
And I think I still believe, if not anymore now that LeBron would have had a chance to go through the West. But it's probably not going to happen anymore after it sounds like it's a groin injury, which is never good for a guy LeBron's.
Yeah, no, and to your Horford point, he played obviously really, really well last night, and he continues to show up in big games for the most part, maybe with the exception of that Cleveland game. I thought he could have gave him more, but he did just a admirable job, particularly in that third quarter of, they were targeting him, as you mentioned, with Luka and LeBron and Austin Reeves, and he just continued to stay in front of guys and would make things difficult. And what the Celtics got themselves into trouble early in the game when they would double Luka or LeBron and leave these other guys open and have the Lakers kind of got comfortable, and there was a couple of times they would bite on Luka's pump fakes that would create either foul opportunities or easy plays at the rim. But as the game went on,
hard to not bite on, though. They are, but
you
know how disciplined you have to be as a defender.
The Celtics are really good at not doing it in the finals.
Yeah.
That was one of the keys to really slow them down. And from the second and third quarter on, those things didn't happen anymore. They covered Luka and LeBron one-on-one, regardless of who the defender was, whether it was Pritchard or Hauser or Horford or Tatum or Brown or whatever. And they didn't bite on those pump fakes. And Al was great. I mean, Al was great. Al was great in both ends. And it wasn't one of those games where he had to hit 3 threes. He understood he was going to get mismatches, took advantage of them down on the post. He did a good job getting them second opportunities. Him and Drew Holiday got some really key offensive rebounds in that game. And then defensively, really stood up very, very well all game long. So, it feels like, we sit there during the season sometimes and it looks like Al is dragging ass and starting to look his age against the Charlotte Hornets in like
Yeah.
December. And then all of a sudden these big games come up and, he plays with the requisite energy and looks like a champion all over again. And he's gonna, I'm sure he'll sit out Monday and he'll be ready to go Wednesday against the Thunder, sit out Monday against the Jazz. Mike, I even sat there wondering last night, like if he had never left to go to the Sixers in free agency after that Kyrie year, would they have won in the bubble with him? Instead
I
of
mean, it's tough to say.
Inez Kanter, who was just getting cooked every time he came into the game in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Heat.
It's tough to say because they weren't healthy, and I think that team could have won if they was certainly not himself. And then Gordon Hayward that season, the regular season, it's the 4 guys for him 20 point team. They were one of the only teams in the history. Of course, against Philadelphia, got hurt. So yeah, Al Horford's on that team, maybe, but they were just so injuries sticking that I don't know. It would have been tough.
Yeah, no, it would have been tough, for sure. Definitely would have increased the chances, especially in that Heat series. Especially
in that Heat series, they would have had another guy. I remember Daniel Tice was really frustrating in that series because he refused to take an outside shot. And the Heat were just leaving him open, and it like really shrunk the floor for Tatum and Brown. And with Gordon Hayward and Kemba just being ineffective, there was no room on the floor for those two. Put Al Horford out there in that series. It changes not things defensively, obviously, but also offensively would have changed a lot.
I mean, they wouldn't have had to play or sign Enes Kanter. Who was just dreadful in that series.
Another guy who would have helped in that series, that was the Max Strus year, right? Where they let him go, or was that the following season? Maybe that was the following season.
No, they let him go that season, but he wasn't a contributor on the Heat.
He wasn't a contributor on the Heat yet. It was it was Duncan Robinson show. Jim, I know that people want to talk about Jayson Tatum and his performance.
Rightfully so, yeah.
Yeah, and I do too. But his post-game comments, I also think, just speaks to what Al Horford brings. Tatum said he's the best teammate I've ever had. He from when I came into the league at 19 years old and just mentoring me, and to what he does now. People forget when Al Horford first came to this franchise, he was like that big free agent signing, and he had huge moments. That first playoff run with Tatum, just covering Joel Embiid basically on his own in that 5-game series against Philadelphia. Like, go back and watch that series, and you will see plays at the end of these games. A lot of those games are close. But Joel Embiid's turning the ball over because Al Horford's blocking his shot, tying him up for a jump ball, hitting a jumper. That was back when Al wasn't shooting threes as much. He was just hitting those jumpers that he used to hit. He's just had so many big moments in these big games. And for me, like, this game was really built up as a big game by the media. And by me, I was excited about it. I'm like dying for Tatum and Brown, now Horford, to have an LA rival. Like, that's not part of their sport. The whole time they've been here, there hasn't been an LA rival, right? So, like, last night was like the first time experiencing it since Paul Pierce. So, like, it was a big moment. It was a big regular season moment. I really enjoyed it last night.
I want to be clear when I say this. So obviously, I'd make that Luka Doncic trade if I'm the Lakers 10 out of 10 times, 11 out of 10 times. Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Anthony Davis with the Lakers with LeBron is a tougher matchup than what we saw last night for the Celtics. They are tailor-made for a team for the Celtics will just roll in the finals. They're different personnel. They play different than the Mavericks team, but really present the same. The Celtics present the same issues for this team as they did for the Mavericks team, and the defensive philosophy really doesn't have to be that much different. And I think Al Horford really exemplifies the key difference between these two teams is the Celtics just have so many interchangeable parts, even their worst one-on-one defender because of size, Pritchard, really um, holds up quite well. Defending guys like Luka one-on-one. I mean, he's not going to win most of the matchups, but he holds up quite well and makes it difficult, as opposed to the Lakers' worst defender, Luka, or even Austin Reeves. If you go out those guys fast, with the Celtics' better offensive players, they don't stand a chance. And how many times did we just see either Tatum or Brown just blow right by Luka again, like you saw all NBA Finals,
Yeah.
and Luka just kind of looking up at the rim behind them.
Or defending with his face.
Yeah, defending with his face. Even that, the three that clinched the game, and with Brown, Luka gave him so much room that it was a warm up three-point shot. It wasn't contested. It wasn't really contested. Like Luka was so afraid of getting beat that he just gave him a warm-up three, walk-in three that most NBA players are going to feel confident taking. And I just think that's a problem with them. Lakers fans will probably say, well, look at what happened in the fourth. I don't think that's indicative of the two teams at all.
Happened in the series.
Yeah.
No way. But I will say this, as a Celtics fan, what happened in the fourth, what happened against Cleveland, the comeback of Denver.
I think it's different. I think they're all different. But go ahead.
But I think it's just something that needs to be addressed. As you texted to me last night, Missoula talked to these guys about not playing with their feet because, and you may disagree with this, but LeBron James doesn't go down with that injury when it's a 4-point game. You pull it out. I mean, the Celtics were not really playing with urgency even when the game got close up. We're at half court with 8 seconds left in the shot clock, pretty traditionally down the stretch before they attacked. I didn't love how they played. Our superstars made some huge shots, which is great. But how they were playing, I even Derek White getting fouled on that three when it was cut to 4. I don't know if I would have made that call if I was. It didn't look like a foul to me. The Celtics is gonna. I think they're too good to let this happen over and over again. Am I concerned? No. Would it piss me off if it happens in the playoffs? Like, even if they win the championship, yeah. Like, why do you guys let this happen? Like, stop.
I just think they're all different situations. I think so. You let out 25-3, and you went up 17 in the third against Cleveland. Cleveland's like talent kind of took over, and the Celtics got into some foul trouble. It changed kind of the pace of the game. There was obviously things the Celtics could have done better, but I didn't look at it as playing with their food. I felt like Cleveland inserted the pressure, maybe had better surrounding cast that game. You had other guys not showing up, and they came up. Denver, they kind of made some shots, and especially at the end of quarters, and that's something you need to focus on and improve. But again, there was nothing like overly concerning to me that I watched in that game. This game, they just fucked around, and it was clear like they started, instead of playing fast and attacking these matchups early like they were in the third quarter and getting whatever shot they wanted, they kind of waited and screwed around. You ended up with turnovers, long rebounds that led to open looks. On the other end, the Lakers got open looks that they weren't getting earlier in the game at all. And I just think that was, the Celtics felt like they were so much better correctly that they just took their foot completely off the gas. So I saw last night differently than those other games. This to me was more like the Knicks game when the Knicks came back, and then the Celtics kind of
at the 4, and then the Celtics
exploded.
Bananas,
exploded. This one was, I think, a little bit more like that game than the Denver Cleveland game, but you can't do that against good teams. I don't think ultimately, even with LeBron, the Lakers were going to come back. LeBron really wasn't playing that well. He was not shooting the ball well at all. And on top of that, Jaylen Brown was still going to get the looks he was going to get, whether LeBron was out there at the end of the game or not. Maybe it would have been a little tighter. I think they hold on. Maybe they don't. Whatever.
LeBron
to me, it's just that fourth quarter is not indicative of the two teams.
No,
it's what
it's
you
not.
saw in the third. Yeah.
And it's what you saw even in Dallas in Game 4 last year when they almost blew it, but it was going to be like one of the biggest epic blowing it ever, right? And then Luka
Mhm.
did what and fouled out and got lazy and yelled at the refs, and the rest is history. And Derek White blocks a huge shot. But like, yeah, LeBron cut it to 7, right? A tough layup on Luke Cornett, I believe. Then Luka comes down and hits a friggin' three off
Off
the
the
bat,
bat. Yeah.
and the momentum had swung, and then obviously LeBron got hurt, and the momentum I felt from that point was gone for LA. Good win by the Celtics last night, Jim. I'm going to leave it to you to talk about Tatum's impact. I want to kind of go back to the last pod where I talked about how Jaylen Brown's kind of like tailor made for the playoffs the way he plays. But last night, right? Russ on calling fouls. I know you were getting frustrated. One thing I was happy about is that it was consistently bad on both ends. Like guys were
Yeah.
getting killed last night. There was a couple turnovers by Luka where I was watching that and I was like, ooh, they fouled him. But you know what? They weren't calling it on the other end. How good was Jaylen Brown in the physical play last night? This is playoff style of basketball. Turning guys over, leading to fast break points, hitting tough shots at the rim, pulling up for tough jumpers. It's tailor made for these kind of games. And I think it's a reminder to me that when the playoffs hit, it's why the Celtics, no matter what the standings are, no matter what the metrics are, I'm going to believe in the Boston Celtics because Jayson Tatum, having this one of the best two-way players in the league standing right next to him in the playoffs is going to be all the difference. I don't know if there's a guy in the NBA that can do more trouble. Jaylen Brown. I mean, Jaylen Brown's taken on a generational player now for a number of games, like 7 or 8 that we've seen the last 2 seasons against this guy. Kills him on the offensive line, on the defensive end. He makes everything extremely difficult. Luka scores 30 points. He has to work against Jaylen Brown to get those 30. And I'm telling you, Jimmy, as much as like I'm rooting for Jayson Tatum to win this thing and get NBA Finals MVP, I don't know if it's possible. People are going to be doubling him, and we need the one-on-one guy to take over. Tatum's just not going to get his shots off because they're taking him away. If Jaylen Brown's just going to go bananas again. It's like set up
Yeah.
for him to get the numbers.
I don't know about that, but I think the initial part of your Tatum, you could have made the argument was the MVP of the finals last year, and you
But
could
they
have made a
just look at
very
the
strong.
numbers, man.
Well, if they
You
looked
know,
at the numbers, they would have given him MVP. So as far as Brown goes, like I think the fact that you have a all-star NBA player picking up an all NBA player full court, you never see that in that league. You never see that in that league. And I, JJ Redick, if these two teams have a matchup again, probably has to figure out maybe Luka isn't the guy bringing it up all the time. Maybe you get him in the ball in the half court, but Brown does a really good job of ball denial too on that. So that's got to really frustrate Luka. I don't think superstars like being picked up full court or with that type of pressure, especially by another all-star player. Usually you see guys coming off the bench who
like that
fill
two-way
the
guy picking up
yeah,
Tatum last night.
like
Yeah.
filling the role and doing that, but you never really see this from like an all-star. So for him to set the tone like that and to step up and continually pick up the best players and continually give that type of energy and effort on that end. And what did he pick his pocket 3 times last night? So pretty impressive
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Yes, man. And why don't you talk about some Jayson Tatum talk here? I mean, 40 points last night. He didn't have the triple double because his teammates couldn't hit wide open threes in the second half.
40, 12, and 8. Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
talk about this guy, Jimmy. Let's hear it.
I don't know what more accolades I can throw his way. I don't think he's played better basketball in his career than what he's doing right now over the last since December. He's just been amazing. You look at the numbers. He's constantly flirting with the triple double, and it's not like a 15, 12, and 10 triple double either. It's like a 35, 9, and 9, or like last night,
Yes.
40, 12, and 8 or against Cleveland, which I think was 40, 16, and 9. 46, 16, and 9. He is just putting together just tremendous work, and we spoke about it on this pod that he's just seeing things so early now with these coverages that he knows exactly how to attack them. Um, Last night he knew there wasn't help at the rim, so he consistently just put pressure on the rim, getting downhill, which we've seen him do more and more in the second half of the season. His pull-up three-point game, I think, is better than it has been. And
for a long time.
just that threat of that really opens up so much for the defense. I mean, for
Yeah.
their offense. Um, he's just he's an amazing player. I said I think I'm gonna go back on something I said. You and I talked about who was a better player, him or Luca. Like right now, it's this season. There's no doubt about it. It's Tatum. You watched last night. Luca's still out of shape, still can't defend. Still does the whole. I get the ball stripped from me. I'm going to stay down the other end of the court and complain for 20 seconds and not get back on defense. I think those things are, flaws in his game that he should have corrected after the NBA Finals last year because they were, you know, they were made so prevalent by the Celtics. But Tatum, yeah, I don't know what else to say. The guy is just amazing. And I guess the last thing you said, it would be impossible for him to win the NBA Finals. Not the way he's playing right now. Like there's not a coverage he doesn't see. He doesn't know how to attack. His shooting is more than good enough. The guy is just on a roll. He might be, he might be the scariest guy outside of Jokic in the NBA right now. Like that's just where he is.
Yeah, playing out of his mind. I mean, last night's performance, he hit so many big shots, especially in that first quarter. LA really came out hot, like red hot from three, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Smith, I think it was part of the game plan to double team and keep him open. That's the way it looked to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I
And
don't know if it was. I think they just screwed up and were overhyped on defense. Yeah,
maybe that's what it was, but they kept losing that guy.
yeah.
And even Austin Reeves hit a couple tough ones. Like the Lakers were just hitting these shots, right? And they took a pretty big lead, maybe it was 8 or 10 points. They didn't have it to like end of the first quarter. I don't know if it was, I think it would have been a tie game. Celtics came all the way back. Uh, what did Tatum have? 18? How many points did he have in that first quarter? It's
He did.
dominated. It's took
Yeah,
over.
it felt.
Yeah.
He had 18 the last game. I think he only had 9 or 11 in this first quarter, but he had
Oh,
three
that's all
big.
he had? Okay.
Yeah, but he had three really big threes, including one at the end of the shot clock, and then at the, you know, to end the quarter, and then to end the half, he had that big dunk, and he had the three, and he had the three before the dunk when the offense was kind of getting stagnant there in the second quarter. It kind of leaned on Tito. It's both. First quarter, they leaned on him when they needed big shots to get them going. He made them with those threes, and then in the end of the second quarter, when it looked like the Lakers might have momentum, Tatum hits that three, comes down with the dunk, and all of a sudden it's a 4 point lead for the Celtics, and obviously that carried over into the third, where if the Celtics play like that and the way they did in the third quarter against anybody, there's not a team in this league that can beat them. I mean, that what they did
Right.
was surgical, just absolutely surgical on both ends.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun to see them come out in the third quarter and just be ready, locked in, and do that. Again, any more thoughts on this game? Do you want to look forward to OKC, or do you want to save that for a pod later in the week? How do you want to handle this? We have a big episode tomorrow on Celtic City. I know
Yep.
we'll look forward to breaking down. So if you don't want to get into OKC, I had a little segment today I wanted to call Wish List of 3 guys I've watched recently against the Celtics that I'd love to have in Boston one day playing for us.
You don't want to get into the Jazz? The Celtics need to get after that ass. Get after the Jazz.
Walker Kessler. I think
Yeah,
it's his
Monday
like
night.
rookie point guard. He's putting up big numbers, but I don't know his name. I just know he's put up big numbers.
All right, the Thunder. We spoke a lot in the last pod, and I think we know. I can't wait for when. Like last night was fine for me. I kind of knew that this was a mismatch going in, and I think that's how it proved out to be. It's just a mismatch on paper and on the floor. The Celtics Lakers. It's not Wednesday night. These are two evenly matched teams. This is going to be, I'm hoping they both play the best basketball because it will be a great game if that's the case.
Yeah.
I guess that's my Thunder thought. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when Nick Wright picked the Lakers to be the favorite to win the NBA Finals yesterday prior to the game and the Celtics to be under them, I knew that the Celtics were going to come out and just embarrass Luka again.
Yeah.
So, Jim, I have a wish list of guys I've watched recently who are, kind of like these guys who are two-way players, undrafted, second-round picks, out to me this year in games against the Celtics. Last night, there was one of them on the Lakers. I had never heard of him prior to last night. Jordan Good. I was really impressed with him last night, picking up Tatum full court. He was the guy who dived on the ball. Luckily, it didn't end up being a turnover. We won it back on the jump ball. And when we were trying to bring the ball up, really impressed just with his intensity. Another guy, a couple of games ago, maybe like a week ago, Jamal Shed. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, for Toronto.
Yeah.
I don't think he's two-way. I don't think he's a two-way guy.
But not a guy I really ever heard of.
Yeah.
Kind of coming on the scene. And then this year, earlier in the year, and I think the Sixers might have released him, unfortunately for him, but a guy who I'd love to have on the Celtics, Ricky Council. Another one of those guys I saw this year on the defensive end.
Yeah, Council's still on the team. He got mop-up minutes at the end of that game. Yeah, no, they're all
3 guys I've just been impressed with this year. Yeah.
And it just shows the depth of talent in the world of basketball. I mean, there's so many good players in the G League. There's so many really good players overseas. You're seeing it at the collegiate level now. So you're just loaded with talent everywhere. And it's, a lot of guys that are fighting to get into the league would have been in the league 15, 20 years ago. I just think the level of talent has risen that much higher. And, what's the Lakers player name again? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Jordan Goodwin.
Goodwin. Yeah, he's a great example of finding that wing that can defend and shoot a little bit. He shot better than he did all season long last night against the Celtics, but he's a great example of the type of G leaguer you should be finding and bring it up to your team. And you never know how it's going to go. You never know what's going to come of it. I mean, Sam Hauser was a two-way player. Max Strauss, who we talked about earlier in the pod, is a two-way player. So the talent level has risen so much that it's not a shock anymore when a two-way player develops into an NBA player because, I mean, they were really close to begin with anyways. It just, you had to make a tough decision. So good job by these teams. I think the G League has been one of the best things that has happened to the NBA over the last 20 years. And, and it's really kept guys here instead of going overseas, and teams have been able to develop them into better NBA players. And you see a lot of success stories like this. So it's great.
Yeah, as a hoop head, Jim, if you haven't watched it was either last year or 2 years ago, Amazon did a documentary series on the G League, and they followed a couple guys around. It was excellent. If you want to watch it, it's really good. Do you have a guy in the league that kind of falls in the category that you watch and you're like, man, I want him on the Celtics one day?
I don't know. That's a good question. Like a guy that always comes to mind is I've always wanted Bruce Brown here. Obviously, he's not one of those type of guys, but a Boston guy went to Denver and was man have the Nuggets missed him since he's left, and he's just one of those guys that's just good enough and has one of those contracts where he seems like he's continually traded because he either fits into the contract structure for a little bit better player or but I don't know. Like I have stopped.
A good name, Bruce Brown. I like that.
I guess I've stopped looking around because I'm so satisfied with the roster that's here.
No, I get it. Yeah, it's just like a guy you enjoy. And I mean, his story's similar. He kind of came on the scene out of nowhere when he was in Brooklyn, and found a place for himself, like through hard work. And that's the guy that they needed to be the Tatum stopper. Remember when we swept Brooklyn in the first round? And we were going into that series like, there's no way that guy can cover Tatum, but he is a great example, Jim. Any advice questions today? Are we just ending the pod? If not, I might actually have an advice question for you.
You give me yours. Do that. Yeah.
So this is a personal situation I'm dealing with at the house today. I wanted to skip out on cooking dinner tonight because I'm dying for a delivery-made pizza. Tommy and Sarah, they just got home and decided to have pizza for lunch. I need to convince them to have pizza a second time tonight for dinner. Then how do I convince my family to have pizza twice tonight to serve my needs?
I think you need to stop being a fat fuck. And you gotta pick your battles at home.
Fuck you bald-headed fuck.
Yeah, there you go. You gotta pick your battles at home, and this one isn't worth having. Like if they had pizza for lunch.
So you don't have any advice to me on how I could get my way?
No,
No
That wouldn't
strategy.
be. It wouldn't be a consideration of mine. They had pizza for lunch. I'm not going to talk them into having pizza for dinner. That's just kind of being an asshole.
To the listeners, my brother's not being very helpful right now. If you have any advice, well, feel free to email us it because I got to figure out a way to get my
Well, I
pizza today.
mean, either that, order yourself a small. It's what with the inflation, it's $52.
Yeah,
And so,
probably.
order yourself a small and cook them dinner. I mean, it's a cheap
Yeah,
meal.
small
So,
pizza is like perfect. It's the
yeah,
perfect,
yeah,
perfect size.
yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I've been dying for pizza. I don't know what to say. Just woke up this morning thinking,
Or
you know
just
what?
have some of their pizza right now. That's the other option.
It's the frozen pizza. It's not the
Uh,
same.
no,
Yeah, it's not the
then
same.
order yourself a small and make them what they want for dinner. Problem solved.
Right. Well, hopefully the Celtics have the whole pie versus OKC this week, Jim. I look forward to talking to you after Celtic City.
All right, take care. See everyone
Take
soon.
care.